together. So back in, I believe it was 2014, really before that, I think Rod, I think we met in, I want to say around 2010-ish. I joined a sales organization that Rod was the president of, and we met the next go round. I became president of that organization, but through that, I learned that Rod was like the master of everything sales, like everything. And so I was just so like in awe of his skill set, his talent, his knowledge. And he started doing these sales trainings that at first I was kind of like, what is this about? But because I was part of the organization, I went to it and I was absolutely blown away, not only by the content, but by how wrong I was about sales training. I had been through a lot of sales trainings, right, in my 20-year career, but I had never been in a sales training that was so scientifically based. And it really was focused on me and my skills and how I could, improve what I was doing and grow my ratio and 10x what I was doing. So I took that class. It was great. I did go and start working for another company, and I got really, I got really good at what I was doing. It was a trash company, but it was a new industry for me. But I had found my groove, and then they sent me to this sales training that they sent everyone to, and it confused the heck out of me. I started second guessing myself. I started getting really stressed out when I was in meetings, and my sales numbers started to drop. I mean, they started to just tank. And I said, I got to do something different because this isn't going to work. I was very proud of, what I was doing. And then all of a sudden I wasn't having the success I was having before. So I reached out to Rod and I said, Rod, I'm in this new industry. This is what's happening. I'm tanking. They sent me to the sales training. I'm stressed out. My sales manager is following me around like a puppy dog and checking to make sure I say all the right things at the right time. And I'm not having success. So I asked him if he would be my coach. He said that he would, which is super special because Rod, owns a whole company that is research-based solutions, and they actually have programs that you can buy into. And for him to be my coach was super special. And I immediately went from about 14% of a closing ratio to 50%. I mean, quickly, like probably within 30 to 45 days. I mean, I just skyrocketed. So I asked him to be here today, and I'm super excited that he's here. Rod is a father. He is a husband. He's an entrepreneur. He's a wealth creator. He is a superstar maker. I'm telling you guys, you want to get in on this. You want to be part of this conversation. Rod is a partner in research-based solutions, and I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit about himself and what it is that he does and why you need to know the science of sales. All right, you guys, and thank you so much for being here. At the end of the class, I'm also going to open up this, the room again. We're going to close it in 30 minutes for those that are not subscribers. But at the end, I'll open it up again so you guys can do your normal networking and introduce yourselves and your businesses. All right, so I'm going to give Rod the floor and take it away.
All right, Lanika, thank you for that wonderful introduction, man. That is awesome. And she didn't share enough about herself. She absolutely was open to doing something different, because what we teach is an art and a science when it comes to helping people reach their full potential. So I appreciate that intro, Lanika. Thank you very much. She was a star pupil, star student, and she absolutely killed it. But just to give you a little bit of background, my whole sales career started way back when I was a young kid. I was a 7-year-old on the south side of Chicago selling lemonade in front of my parents' house. And I was that guy, right? And so it actually ended up being one of my most profitable businesses, because what I ended up doing is finding some stuff in my mom's pantry, and I would go out on the front porch and sell it. And my mom found out that she was my supply chain and I wasn't paying her, so she shut me down. But it gave me an opportunity to really understand and get into the world of sales. Sales is one of those things, as Lanika mentioned, that people aren't necessarily taught in school. And ultimately what ends up happening is people fall into the profession, right? They try something else. They may go to school for business. They may go to school for marketing and all that, but they end up coming out of school starting in entry-level sales job, right? And they're not prepared for it. And so that essentially happened to me. I went to school, got a master's degree in economics. And I remember, coming out with this mindset that, well, I got a master's degree. So I was very passionate about the financial services industry. So I got into the brokerage industry in the early 90s. And coming into my first job, working at a firm downtown Chicago, I had the impression that, since I had a graduate school degree, I can just, walk in with the Wall Street Journal tucked under my arm, sit behind a nice, beautiful desk and wait for the phone to ring for people to come and do business with me. Now, how many of us know that didn't happen, right? So that's when I learned you actually have to go out and get the business. And so it was really an education, more of a school of hard knocks thing for me, because I was that guy that had that rah-rah manager that was, coming in, trying to pump everybody up and get the adrenaline flowing and really just scaring the hell out of everybody when it comes to, sales. And I remember, going into these coaching sessions and I was told all the things I was doing wrong. And I was basically responsible for trying to fix them all myself. So it was a very challenging experience for me, right? If anybody ever seen the movie Wolf on Wall Street or some of the what was the other one? I can't remember the name of it, but we were the people that would be pounding the phones all day long. They would give us these scripts and these rebuttals. And I remember I used to have to make 200 dials in 200 minutes, and they would not allow us to sit down. That's what I grew up in.
The stress of that.
Exactly, right? So I didn't stay there long. And in my mind, I thought there has to be a better way to do this. And so I ended up going to another firm, and it was Waterhouse Securities at the time. And it was a very reactive financial services firm. And they really didn't do any sales. They were more about fulfillment and customer service. However, in the mid-90s, an evolution had begun in that industry. A lot of the firms have pivoted from being a reactive organization more into a proactive organization. And Charles Schwab was really the pioneer to kind of start things, right? So people knew my sales background, right? And they recruited me to be part of this team to help our company make the transition. And in that experience, we made a ton of mistakes, right? We put service people in sales positions that they didn't want to be in, nor what they were wired for. We call ourselves trying to, bring salespeople from the outside, only to realize that they were sales refugees from other organizations. And so we had a mess on our hands. We had to fix it and fix it pretty quickly, because at that same time, we were being bought out. We got a company out of Canada by the name of Toronto Dominion, one of the fifth largest banks at that time, was looking at us, right? And so we brought in a consultant. His name is Dr. Dave Barnett, and Dr. Dave actually has a double master's in organizational management. He's been in sales and sales management research for 50 plus years. And he had a different philosophy and a different methodology when it came to the selection, management, and development of salespeople. And so he allowed us to customize a lot of his intellectual property and deploy a lot of it within our company at that time. And so long story short, with the deployment of his tools, we were successful in the transition. And after that experience, I had a chance to take on a multi-billion-dollar sales unit. And I just went to the same playbook. I deployed a lot of the things that I learned from Dr. Dave, and we took a multi-billion-dollar sales unit, grew it 50% in less than 18 months. And after that experience, I was like, whoa, I think we got something, right? So I was able to convince a few of my colleagues that, we can take this outside of these four walls of, at the time it was TD Ameritrade, and go out and help these other sales organizations solve that riddle. Because when it comes to consistent high performance sales results, that sales riddle is one that exists in a lot of organizations, and we felt at the time, and we still do, that we had the solution. So in 2004, we made a decision to start a company that has now become known as Research-Based Solutions. And now we work with a number of sales organizations across the globe when it comes to helping them with the selection, management, and development of the salespeople. And, you know, to Lanika's point earlier, you know, one of the things that we found out right away, you know, when it comes to helping people reach their full potential in sales, organizations fall into a number of common pitfalls, one of which is they will take a methodology or adopt a sales program from a consultant or, you know, something in the marketplace, and they'll lay it on top of the organization without really taking a look at the existing sales behavior of the associates. Right. And so what ends up happening is that once they lay that methodology on top without looking at the behaviors of the sales associates, the associates will adopt the methodology and they'll try it. And they may even have some success with it in the beginning. But then ultimately, they end up falling back to their natural behavior, to the status quo. And so one of the things in which we do, and we're different, is, as Lanika mentioned, we take a look at what's going on inside that sales professional first, and just really get an understanding of the sales behaviors that exist, right? And we help them understand why they're behaving the way they are from a sales perspective and how to manage those behaviors better, right? So it's all about self-awareness and just really raising the awareness of this is why you sell the way you do. And this is how you can become more impactful and better when it comes to interacting with other people, prospects, existing customers, so on and so forth. And so we not only help them with the self-awareness, but we also help them with the social awareness, because we all have a selling communication style, whether we realize it or not, we do, right? And what ends up happening with salespeople is we tend to impose that style on every person that we talk to. Now, some people will conform to the way that you communicate with them in a sales interaction. Others will not, right? And I'm sure you've had those interactions where you and another person, without a whole lot of effort, there was just an instant connection, right? And you were able to get the sale done pretty easy. And then there was those other situations where, for whatever reason, you and that person just could not get on the same page. And chances are your communication style was one that was in conflict with that person. The person that you were able to influence in a positive way and get the sales done, chances are your communication style was one that complemented that person's communication style. So we help you understand and have the social awareness of the buyer behavior, so that instead of imposing your style on that person and forcing them to conform, we help you realize how to make the adjustment on your side, how to adjust to the communication style of that buyer. And it's much more impactful. Go ahead.
Just for a second and interrupt, Rob. So I just wanted to, just for the people that are listening, I want to make it real for them, right? So we can use me as a case study or whatever you want, but let's talk about, you know, kind of what you found my style was and how that impacted the buying process. So because we have about, I think, 10 more minutes of the audio room before we move over to Zoom only. So let's kind of get into that just for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lanika had a style that was one in which we call them performers, right? And she was also high in empathy. So what that means is Lanika, when she communicated with people, she was very forthright with who she was, what she was about, how good she was, and you know, I'm sure I'm not saying anything you guys probably know.
They know.
So what I work with her on is to recognize how to dial that down, particularly when she's talking to other styles. There's a certain style that type of communication style doesn't appeal to, and that's the analyzers. So when you think of an analyzer, think of an engineer type or an attorney or pilot. She would talk to these folks all day long with her style, and she would impose. And without even knowing it, without having the social awareness at the time, she was negatively influencing a lot of those interactions. And so I just kind of raised the awareness to say, hey, listen, when you're talking to this person, instead of coming out and telling them how good you are, let's start asking questions, right? And let's start, and just off tone alone can make the biggest difference, right? Because she speaks with a lot of high energy and passion and enthusiasm. And when she was talking to these analyzer types, they were turned off by it. They don't like a whole lot of energy coming at them, right? So I encourage her to just kind of bring that tone of voice down a bit and speak to them with a slower pace and a softer tone. And it was tough for her in the beginning because she's up here, right? She's high energy, right? And so, but once she realized that this other person didn't appreciate all that high energy, she realized how to adjust it very quickly. And when she was able to do that, she was able to connect more effectively with that type of buyer, right? That buyer would start developing a liking for her, and they wouldn't even know why they like her. All they knew is that they did. And it was really just her making that adjustment, and she was able to get a lot more business.
It was amazing because honestly, I kind of had this, I had this mentality of, you want this. I don't know what the issue is. I'm here. I have it. You want it. What are we doing? Matter of fact, my sales manager called me.
We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you on Fanbase.
Are you? Okay. How's it now?
Better.
Okay. I had this attitude of, I'm here. You want this. You need this. So why are we wasting time? And my sales manager called me, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Because I felt like, I don't know why I have to convince you to buy something that you need.
Right.
Like you need it. Right. So this, that was kind of the mentality that was kind of affecting my conversations, especially for an analyzer. Think about a person who analyzes everything. And, I don't want to give details. I don't have time for that. Right? But that's what they wanted.
That's what they wanted. That's what they need. They have a high need for information. And what really is driving that high need is a huge fear that they have of making a mistake or being wrong. That's why they require all that information. They want to gather all that info to prevent and suppress that fear that they have. And so if you interact with them and you're not giving them that information that they want, they're turned off by it. And they're gonna develop a dislike for you and won't even know why they don't even like you, but they just don't. And we all know that people like to do business with people that they like, right? So I helped Lanika really understand the concept of that. Once she got it, she was off and running, right? And so, there's an art and science to it. So what we're talking about is that art, right? Just the art of that conversation. And that's another pitfall that a lot of companies fall into when they teach their organizations how to sell. They just focus on the dialogue, but there's more to it than that, right? So if you were to think of, I want you guys to have a mental image of a pyramid, okay, that has 4 levels to it, right? And what I want you to understand when it comes to sales development, there's a 4-level hierarchy that has to take place if you want to reach your full potential. And at the base of that pyramid, if you will, the first level is effort, right? The effort has to be in place. You could be the best coach on the planet Earth, but if the effort of that associate is not intact, it doesn't matter. Whatever you teach them is not going to be sustainable, right? So that's the first thing that needs to happen. So when it came to Lanika's effort, it was off the charts, right? She brought the energy. She had the energy to execute a game plan, if you will. So the effort was there. So I really didn't have to coach her on that. The second tier of that pyramid is being efficient. And what I mean by that is really being efficient in your interactions, being efficient to hit a certain amount of productivity or activity that's necessary. We'll talk about that in a moment, right? So that's the second tier. The third tier is being effective and really understanding the art of that conversation. And so what ends up happening is a lot of organizations will try to leapfrog levels 1 and 2 and jump right into coaching level 3 and help a person become more effective in the conversations. But here's the problem. If they're not having enough of the conversations, no matter how good they are at level 3, they're not going to be successful, right? So that hierarchy has to happen. So you have to go from levels 1 effort, level 2 efficiency, then level 3 effectiveness. Now, level 4, the apex of the pyramid is exceeding expectations. And this is where we teach people how to maximize the time that they have when it comes to sales, maximize their hours on the job. So that 4-level development has to take place. Now, every sales.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop the audio room, y'all. So if you are in the audio room, we are closing out for about an hour. I will come back at the end so that we can do a little networking. If you are a subscriber, you can either go to the subscriber tab and you can get the Zoom link from there. If you are not a subscriber, I believe we are doing, can anybody tell me how many hearts we're doing today for access?
500.
Okay, 500 hearts today for access to the Zoom room. You can go to the subscriber tab and put the 500 hearts on the Zoom link post, okay? And then you can come into the Zoom room. The Cannaboss is your link, and also Carla from Real Relationships. Those two have the link that they can email to you if you DM them after you spend your 500 hearts, okay? And then you can come into the Zoom room. I will be back in an hour, and we will do our networking and our wrap up and talk about what we learned with Rob McKinnis in 10 Times Your Sales in the Zoom room. All right, so I'm gonna shut this down in about 30 seconds. If you guys have any questions, make sure you guys reach out to the Cannaboss or Real Relationships. Also, Bernetta, can you help us out too?
Everybody who has already DM'd me,
Sure, absolutely.
Everyone who has already DM'd me, you should have received a link. If not, just let me know, but you should have received a link.
All right, y'all. All right, we are ghosting out of this room. I will reopen the room in about an hour. I love you guys. This is the best part of my week, and I'll see you guys soon, hopefully in the Zoom room. All right, love you, bye. All right, it's just us now.
All right.
All right. Okay, so we're going to jump back in. I want to let everybody know that the chat is open. We will get to all of your questions, so put them there. We'll come back later and we'll address your questions. So if you have questions or comments you want to make, you can talk to each other in the chat. But Rod and I are going to continue our conversation. All right. It's so good to see you, Jamel. Jamel made it in. Whoop, whoop. All right. Okay, y'all. So I am going to turn my phone off. I will not be checking DMs. So I'm asking my girls to help me out there and get people over to Zoom if they are subscribed. You can go and look and see who put hearts on it too. All right, y'all. All right, let's go back to Rod. So you were talking about the 4 levels, and we got to level 4, and I kind of shut you off. So let's jump back into level 4, and then you can go through.
Now, level 4 is just really setting people up to exceed their expectations. Now, again, it's a hierarchy. So the effort needs to be in place. The person needs to be efficient. They need to be effective. And then there's level 4 to set them up to exceed those expectations. And so one of the things that I notice with a lot of organizations, and even if your sales results are inconsistent, chances are, well, I should say, let me put it this way, 90% of the time, it's going to be a level 3 effectiveness or level 1 effort problem. That's what causes the inconsistency in a lot of results for salespeople and sales organizations. And most of the time, it's at level 1. So let me spend some time talking about level 1. All right. So when it comes to effort, there are 4 critical behaviors that have to be engaged in order for someone to reach their full potential, right? And we refer to them, if you're writing this down, write these down because this is important. We call it the CGEI paradigm, CGEI paradigm. And what that stands for is the C stands for confidence. And so what we help people understand is that when it comes to being successful and achieving the desired results that you want, you got to come in with the mentality of, if I work hard, I can achieve the desired results, right? So that's confidence. When you have that confidence, it sets you up to create meaningful goals. And when I say meaningful goals, those are goals that you want, not what the company wants you to do. It's a big difference, right? It was one of the things I was working with Lanika on, was saying, hey, what does Lanika want to do? Not what the company wants you to do, right? Because again, it's another trap that companies fall into, is they actually put an artificial cap on someone's potential. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's just say that when it comes to, thank you, Carla, when it comes to how a person's evaluated, green bar is like the destination spot, right? Everybody wants to get a green bar rating. But here's the problem with that. Let's just say that the person has potential of doing, 3X, but to hit green bar, it only requires them to be at X when it comes to effort, right? But just having them focus on X, they're not going to reach their full potential. So whenever I engage with organizations and I'm in a classroom with the participants, I share with them, I am not here to help you hit green bar. I am here to help you reach your full potential. And in going after your full potential, you will exceed green bar, all right? So I'm all about helping you achieve the goals that you want, whether it's to buy a new home, buy a new car, pay down student loan, pay off debt. That's what I'm after, not that green bar destination that the organization wants. So that's the G, the goal, the meaningful goals. These are intrinsic goals, things that you want to accomplish. In a moment, I'm going to share a story with you to show you how powerful that is. Now, here's the thing. When you're operating towards a goal that you want, a goal that you put high reward, a high value on, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. And what the dopamine does is it gives your body the fuel or the energy to pursue that goal, right? For those of us that have kids, you probably see this all the time. When your kids want something, they'll pick up their clothes, they'll clean their rooms, they'll wash the dishes, won't they? Because they know that mom or dad is going to reward them accordingly, right? That's the dopamine effect, right? That's how you get intrinsically motivated, right? So I remember, my oldest son, when he was in high school, I traveled when things were open. I was traveling quite a bit, traveling every week. And I used to schedule my travel, if I could, around his games, because I wanted to see him play, right? And so I remember moving heaven and earth to come watch him play on one of these games, and tip-off happens, and I could just see him just going through the motions, just coasting, right? And it wasn't until somebody from the opposing team accidentally knocked him to the floor and popped him in his mouth, where I saw him get up, gather himself, and I saw in his eyes something switched. He flipped that switch in his brain, and he just went off, right? So after the game, I asked him, I said, okay, Riley, why does it take someone to knock you to the floor, pop you in your mouth, for you to flip that switch? And you know what his response was? I don't know, right? And so, what me and his mom decided to do for pregame rituals, right? She would knock him in his mouth, and I would pop him. No, we didn't do that. I thought about it, though. I really did. I really did think about it. But here's the thing. Here's the thing I was trying to help him understand. He was extrinsically motivated. In other words, he needed an external force to get him to flip that switch. And it's the same thing that organizations do with salespeople. They'll extrinsically motivate the organization with a contest or some type of prize winning or some type of fireside chat, right? And the problem with that is that it's short-lived. And if you don't have a external force that is enticing to you, you still won't respond to it. Right. So my goal was to help him become intrinsically motivated. So before every season and before, school start, we would sit down and we would write down goals that he wanted to accomplish in the classroom and on the court. And we would focus on those things. Right. So we would go into the season with a higher awareness of what he wanted to accomplish. And it's the same thing with salespeople. We'll sit down. We encourage them to sit down and download. What do you want? Do you want to buy that home? Do you want to buy that car? Do you want to pay off that debt? What is it, right? So let's figure that out first. And then we'll take a look at your comp plan to figure out the level of production or the level of activity you need to operate at in order to achieve that thing that's important to you, right? So that's how we get the dopamine going. And then once we have the confidence, the goal, and the energy, now it's a matter of putting forth the initiative. That's the I. To take the initiative towards the game plan. What are the natural next steps that you need to take in order to make sure that that goal is achieved? So that's the CGEI engagement. So if you ever saw someone that was very successful, you ever wonder why some people would be super successful in sales and others would not be? Many people may have thought they were lucky or they just had that it factor. No, it's not that at all. When you have successful people, it's just that they have that CGEI engagement. That's the difference. That's what separates everybody from everybody else. Because those that are inconsistent, chances are one or more of those behaviors are not engaged, right? And so we help them recognize which behavior needs to be focused on. And then once we get that full CGEI engagement, results happen and they take off, right? That's the same thing that happened to Lanika. I had to focus on what she wanted to get that dopamine flow. And then we put together a game plan so she knew every day the level of activity she needed to operate at in order to achieve her goal. And she killed it, right? And so it's the same thing with salespeople. Now, let me show you how powerful this is. There was a gentleman in an organization named Aaron that I was working with, and we did the initial launch. And Aaron, after the training, people usually kind of stick around and just kind of, really talk about their own personal situation. They want to get a little more information. So he was sticking around and he saw the training. He was like, Rod, this was the missing piece. This is what I needed. I said, what do you mean? He said, I've been with the company for a year and a half, 6 quarters, and he had never hit company target before. And he felt like this was the missing piece that he needed in order to position himself to reach company target. And so I just encouraged him, say, hey, man, don't outthink this. Don't overcomplicate it. Just execute it. And he did that. So first quarter out of the training, halfway through the quarter, he was pacing to arrive above company target for the very first time. Now, here's the problem. And this is a number one threat for a lot of salespeople or sales organizations. He thought he had it all figured out. And he got complacent. So you probably guess what happened by the end of the quarter. He fell short yet again by the end of the quarter. And so Q2 results were worse than Q1. Q3 results were worse than Q2's. And so I'm back on site at the end of Q3 and he catches me in the hallway. And he goes, Rod, dude, I need your help. I need your help. Something happened coming out of training. I was doing something well, but I'm not doing it anymore. I need to get back to it, right? So one of the most important things in that CGEI paradigm is that G to E connection, right? The I is initiative, Lanika, is that G to E connection, right? So I needed to understand what his goal was, what he was after, what he was trying to do, because now I'm his coach, right? And the first thing I need to find out is, what do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? And he went on to share how he had a vehicle that had become unreliable. He was a father of 3, family of 5. One of the kids was special needs daughter. So he needed something more reliable to be able to transport the entire family and her equipment. So I asked him, I said, okay, what type of vehicle are we talking about? He shared that with me. I said, how much does it cost? He shared that with me. So now I'm pulling his manager into the conversation. And now we're sitting down, we're looking at the compensation plan, and we're trying to figure out how much he needs to what he needs to perform at, or the level he needs to operate at in order to be able to afford this vehicle. Because he went on to share how he didn't want to finance it, he didn't want to lease it, he needed to buy it outright. So we figured out the game plan. And before we departed, I asked him to do me a favor. I asked him to download a picture of that vehicle. And I also asked him to write out the check and to put it on his desk. This was me trying to help him avoid the complacency trap, right? So he did that. Now, God bless his wife. She caught wind of what we were doing, and she downloaded a second picture and wrote out a second check and put it on the bathroom mirror at home. So between home and work, he could not get beyond this goal, right? And so he's off and running in the following quarter, Q4. Halfway through the quarter, he's ahead of the game again. He's in the exact same position he was in Q1. He had more productivity than we projected. His results were better than projected. Now, God bless his wife. She caught wind of that. She downloaded a third picture, wrote out a third check for the upgraded version of the vehicle she wanted to buy, right? So she posted that on the bathroom mirror, had him posted on his desk. Long story short, he had earned enough money to buy that vehicle by the end of the quarter. Now I'm back on site after the purchase and he wants to show some gratitude. So he takes me out to lunch. So we're driving to the restaurant, the brand new Nissan Armada, all the bells and whistles and leather trim, plenty of room to transport his daughter's equipment. And we're at lunch eating and he shares with me, he opens up, he says, Rod, I got another goal. I said, what is it? He says, I want to take my family to Disney World. Right. My kids never had that Disney experience. So I want to give them that. And he went on to talk about how he wanted to give his daughter the princess experience. Right. So I said, all right, same thing. Let's figure out the costs associated with this trip. Now, you got to understand, this is a family of 5 flying from Salt Lake City to Orlando, Florida. This is not an inexpensive trip, right? And so I said, we got to figure out travel costs, theme park costs. You know, the princess experience is not cheap. Let's include that in there. And so we put it all together. We looked at the compensation plan. We figured out the level of activity he needed to operate at and put the game plan together. In 2 quarters, off his family goes to Orlando, Florida. He even earned enough money to fly in the in-laws to watch the kids so that they can go out and enjoy downtown Disney. Now I'm back on site after that experience. And now we're at his desk. I'm looking at the picture show. I see the kids in the Mickey Mouse ears, the daughter looking adorable in her princess garb. And I'm distracted though, because this is big, huge, clear bag of dirt sitting on his desk. And I'm trying to let it go, right? I'm looking at the pictures, but this bag of dirt is just bothering me. So I'm looking at pictures, I'm looking at dirt, pictures, dirt. I'm like, Aaron, time out, man. Listen, kids look adorable. Love them. Great job. Nice job. What's with the dirt, man? Help me understand the dirt that's sitting here. And he sat back and he just smiled. He said, Rod, that's my third goal. And he could see the question mark on my face because I was still confused. I was like, I don't get it. He said, that bag of dirt was from the plot of land my wife and I just bought to build the second house. And I said, man, you got it. You got it. He got the process, right? Now, I want you to understand something. I want you to understand what just happened. Here's a kid that went 10 straight quarters, never hit company target before, to now buying a vehicle for his family, taking his family on a great vacation, and now buying a second home for his family. Here's my point. That potential was inside of him the entire time. All we needed to do was help him engage that CGEI behavior to unlock it. That's all we needed to do. He was operating towards a company target that didn't mean anything. We needed to find that goal that meant something. So I know we're running out of time. I'm gonna turn it back over to Liga.
We're good. So I wanted to you say, Carla, now will I get arrested for digging me a bag of dirt from some land I don't own yet? I just wanted to hop in real quick and just kind of give you guys some perspective from where I was when I met with Rod for the first time. So I had just recently gone through a divorce and I had moved to a whole new state. So Here I was with these small children. I had 2 small children that I had to support all by myself. And Rod, I don't even know if you knew this, but we were in a 1-bedroom, 500 square foot efficiency.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wow. So nobody knew that. I'm not going to cry. Nobody knew that. But we had moved to California and we were in this efficiency studio. Basically, somebody had built in their garage in the back of their house. Inland Park, which is a very expensive neighborhood. So, we were fun. But it was a lot for me to take on by myself. And all I knew was that I needed to make enough money so that I could get us out of that 1-bedroom apartment. That was it. That was all I cared about.
That's
And
awesome.
so within 6 months, we had moved into a 3-bedroom townhouse. I don't know if you knew that, but
I didn't know that.
that
Now,
is what
all
happened.
I knew was that you were hungry.
Yes,
That's all I knew.
yes,
And I could work
absolutely.
with that. I could work with
Yes,
effort.
yes. And so y'all just, to encourage you guys, I don't know where you are in your journey. But when I started my journey, I was flat broke. I had nothing. Um, within within a year, I was making 6 figures. Within 5 years, I was making 7. So I just want you guys to understand that, this investing in yourself matters. And it
Absolutely.
works. And learning, never stop learning. And that is why I created CEO School, because I don't want you guys to stop learning. You guys have to always level up. So I just wanted to add that in there because I know you're going to wrap up. But I want you guys to start thinking about your why. Like, why is this important to you? So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rod.
No, that's absolutely correct. And gang, listen, you really have to understand where you are when it comes to the CGEI behavior. Now, if you really want to know how to evaluate where you are, as Lanika said, we have tools that can help you with that. She has my contact information. Feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you with this because again, this information, when it comes to the haves and the have-nots, the only difference between the two is the information. That's really it, right? And so when I caught wind of this and realized how impactful it was, I wanted to get out and get the information to everybody, right? And that's why I'm here, to share this with you because this will help unlock that potential that exists inside of each and every one of you. So I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come share a little bit. I could go on for hours, as Lanika knows, talking about stuff.
I'm open to you going on for hours. I don't care. I wanted to, if you have time, if we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, I got a few more minutes.
A few more minutes, okay.
Yep.
Does anybody want to ask Rod any questions from your perspective, especially from an entrepreneurship perspective, because most of you guys are entrepreneurs? And you just unmute your mic and ask.
Yes, hi Rob. My name is Jamal. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice meeting you, man.
Yeah, I'm curious. Because I'm also in sales. I'm curious. How long have you been working on the CGEI model? If it's yours, I'm not sure if it's yours or not. But how long did it take for you to develop that specific practice before actually making it something that you would go ahead and teach?
Yeah, great question, man. I've been running with this. First of all, it was created by myself, my colleagues, and Dr. Dave. So it was a group thing. So we all own it as part of Research-Based Solutions. But I've been running with it, man, since the late 90s. And when I tell you, this not only helps you in your professional lives, but it can also help you in your personal lives as well. So it is very impactful.
It is. It actually helps me to realize that a lot of it is mentality, which leads me to my next question. Do you have, I see that you're an author, but do you have a book specifically that talks further in detail about this specific?
Oh, yes.
Man, listen, thanks for plugging that book. So yeah, the book I wrote is Sales is Simple. It's available on Amazon. It really is just a documentary of the experience I went through when we took that $40 billion business unit to 60 billion, right? But I got better books that I'm going to encourage you to read. And two of them are my favorites. One is called The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. All right. So here's the thing, gang. When it comes to that CGEI paradigm, each behavior feeds into the other, and it starts with confidence. And what I'm finding is that a lot of people struggle with the confidence game, right? There's some folks that have the glass half full mentality. There are others that have the glass half empty mentality. And then there's those folks that have the glass is half empty and someone is about to come around and kick the glass over mentality, right? So what happens is a lot of us, we put our own limitations on our minds as to what we're capable of or entitled to. And that the book, The Magic of Thinking Big, helps remove those limitations so that you can set yourself free from it, right? So that's one book I would recommend, Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. The other one, it is my favorite book, and I reread this book often. I probably read this book about 15 times. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
I just saw that. I didn't pick it.
Yeah. So let me talk about that for a second. So this book, both books actually were written back in the 1930s, but the concepts and the principles still apply to this day, right? So Napoleon Hill back then, you got to understand, this was during the Great Depression, right? So there was still these titans that were very wildly successful in the midst of a depression. And he went around and did some research to figure out how were they so successful. And the common thread among all, when I'm talking about titans, I'm talking about the J.P. Morgans, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, right? So what he found to be the common thread amongst all of them is that they had a different mindset when it comes to success. They were going to win no matter what. They weren't going to let anything stop them. And one of the things that when it comes to the confidence game, you got to understand how your subconscious works, right? A lot of us, when it comes to our subconscious, we're clueless. And here's why I say that. Because when you think about your subconscious, it's you got to think of it as a fertile farmland. Now, what do I mean by that? What gets planted inside of it is what's going to grow out. It has no bias to it whatsoever. So if you're constantly planting fear, doubt, disbelief, that's what's going to grow out. And you're going to prevent yourself from being successful. But if you're constantly planning in goals, daily affirmations, game plans to achieve goals, guess what? That's what's going to set you up for success, right? But a lot of us don't have that mentality. You know, if any of you follow me on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, by the way. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see me tag a lot of my messaging in with the hashtag Vibrate Higher. Here's something I want to let you guys know. Everything that you want in life is already available to you. You have to vibrate your mindset to the level where you're prepared to receive it. Success is attracted, not pursued.
Say that again.
Success is attracted, not pursued. Our brains are like super magnets, right? And so when you're constantly thinking about success and things that you want, your mind vibrates to a level in which you'll start attracting all those things in your life. But here's the challenge for a lot of us. We think about the negative stuff. And guess what gets attracted? Right? And we see it play out time and time again. We see it play out for example, lottery winners. Lottery winners will come into a large sum of money and will end up being broke a year later. Why? Because in their mind, they're not entitled to it. They didn't deserve it. And what ends up happening is they'll start to self-sabotage and the money will go away. We see it in professional athletes. Same thing. They come from rags, get to riches, and go back to rags because of their mindset, right? So that book, Think and Grow Rich, man, powerful book. I reread that book often. I get something out of it every time I read it.
I love it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing those titles.
Oh, no problem.
Anybody else have any other? Thank you, Jamel, so much for participating. If we were in the Zoom room, if we were in fan base, I'd give you some hearts. So I have to do that later. Anybody else want to ask Rod a question or want to talk about what your motivation is? You're not going to have this chance again, so don't pass.
So I'm going to be bold.
Really?
You get another one.
So I'm going to be bold. First of all, I want to say thank you, Lanika, for putting this on and bringing Rod to speak with us and share some gems. Thank you, Rod, for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us. I really appreciate that the story you told us about the visuals, because I do vision boards, but actually like taking pieces off of that vision board and putting them in key places in the house, I think will be very helpful to me. So absolutely. I currently am a tech recruiter. I specifically work with college students who are either graduating this year or have recently graduated to place them in tech-based positions with Fortune 500 companies. However, I do have a consulting business where I do business registration, copyright, trademark, patent registration. And my goal is to expand that business to a 6-figure business so I can leave my 9-to-5 to focus on the other streams of income that I want to have. Okay. When you have a goal like that, I'm really like going back and forth between setting the timeline. Originally, I had set the timeline to have the business at 50,000 by the end of this year, okay, and 6 figures by the end of next year. Okay. And I go back and forth whether that's like too big of a goal or not enough time to reach that level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's a common challenge amongst entrepreneurs. And so thanks for the question. So one of the things I would encourage is, first off, let's make sure that we have that goal. So when you sit down in your quiet place, right, just kind of meditate on what it is that you want and write it down. Write it down, and you do vision boards. Write it down and put it someplace visible. And the reason I want you to do that, it's the same thing I had Aaron do. And the reason I had him do this is because when you write it down and you put it someplace where you see it every day, your subconscious will start grinding away and working at figuring out how to make it happen. Okay. But when you don't write it down and you don't have it visible, that dynamic doesn't take place. Right? So goals not written, those are wishes. Those aren't goals.
Okay.
Right? So and the reason I bring this up is because once you commit to that goal, you then will begin to start putting the game plan together to achieve it. But you got to commit to it. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to get tested. You are going to get tested. The universe will test you, or God, let me say it this way, God will allow you to be tested to make sure this is what you want. And if you pass that test, he will open up the doors to make sure that you get it.
Got it.
But you got to commit to it.
Okay.
Right? But write it down, see it so that the subconscious dynamic can take place. You start putting that game plan together and you'll hit it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is so true. I remember back when I used to do vision board parties, I would always tell people, don't just put pictures on your board. Make sure that there's an action associated with each picture that you put there. Because like you said, goals not written down are just wishes. Pictures that you look at can motivate you, but if you don't have a plan of action in getting to them, right, then you probably won't actually reach that goal. I always tell people in my goal planning workshops, work backwards. What's your goal? And then what are the steps that you need to reach that goal? And then start working backwards on that goal so that you know where you're starting from. So I know Ashina's head wrap is beautiful. So Bernetta had a question. I don't know if her sound is working now. Bernetta, can you try? Let's see. I'm going to try to, it's not even letting me ask you to unmute. Do you want to type your question? And then we'll let you ask it. LaShawn, welcome to the room. I know that you had a little bit of trouble getting in, but I'm happy that you're here now. So thank you so much for coming in. I know Melissa just emailed. There she is. Melissa's coming in. So there she is. There she is. All right. So we're gonna do a wrap up, and we're just gonna go back over kind of what we talked about before we let Rod go. So if we go back through the 4 E's of development, you want to tell us what those were one more time in case people.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a hierarchy. It starts with level 1 effort, level 2 being efficient, level 3 effectiveness, and then level 4 exceeding expectations. Those are the 4 levels of development when it comes to a sales perspective, right? And like I said, most of the challenges come at level 3 and level 1. So we got to make sure the effort's in place. That CGEI paradigm I talked about, that's at level 1. That's how we start to unlock that effort. Okay. You got to have the dopamine flow from that GDE connection. You got to have that confidence, that mindset that you're going to win no matter what. Right. And then once you have the confidence and you start operating towards meaningful goals that you want, the brain releases the dopamine, gives you the energy to pursue. Now it's a matter of putting the initiative together in terms of the game plan. The plan of action is going to take you to achieve that goal within the designated time frame.
All right. And then, so if you guys didn't write that down, the 4 E's are effort, efficiency, effectiveness, and exceeding expectations. Did I get that right?
You got it.
And then the CGEI paradigm is confidence, goals, energy or intrinsic motivation, and initiative.
Correct.
Okay, so those are, so if you guys didn't write those down, write them down. And you have those things in your book, Rod? Those
the CGEI is in the book, and yeah, the 4 levels is in the book. Yeah, it's in all that's in the book.
All in the book. So get Sales is Simple. It's Sales is Simple by Rod McKinnis. It is available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle. It's not on Audible, Rod, so I need you to do a re-release.
I know.
Re-release it. I'm going to design your book cover this time. You know
I need all the artistic help I can get.
You know, but it's so good. It's so much good information. And I want it on Audible, so we're going to set him up so he can read it and get it up on Audible. You guys, it is dope information. I'm telling y'all, Rod McKinnis changed my life. I tell anybody who will listen that Rod McKinnis changed my life. And I say that sincerely. And I don't say that about a lot of people. I am not the type of person to give false accolades. I'm telling y'all, it was life-changing. It was Carla shaking her head. Go ahead, Carla.
I was just agreeing with you on the fake accolades. You don't do that. And Rod's contact information on Facebook and his link to his book is in the chat. So if you're not in the chat, go pop over there and get it. Or you can inbox us on Fanbase.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. I appreciate that.
No problem, Rod. It's amazing. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rod, so much for today. I'm super excited. Hopefully you'll come back again.
I always come back. Anytime I get an invite, I'm coming.
Yay. I'm actually going to be doing a Women, Wealth, and Wine Zoom room soon.
Hey.
And so I would love to invite you to that. So I don't know if you knew this, but our dear friend Latasha was my partner in that when we did it before, and she's gone now. But Rod was also her partner, so I'm going to ask Rod to join me when we do that again.
Absolutely, you know I'm there.
Okay, I love you. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, gang. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. How was that?
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
Awesome. That was really, really good information.
I'm so glad that you guys learned something. So tell me a little bit about what you learned and any feedback or anything you want to share.
3 things off top. First things first, I'd love to be able to get the replay if possible, being as I missed like the whole first half, if that's okay.
Yes, all subscribers can have the replay. Yes.
Secondly, I am 1,000,000,000% going to put the goals, make the goals tangible and print them out and put them all over my house. But instead of doing that, I'd like to commission Khadija. I'm hoping that you do custom work where you be able to
I love it.
Develop custom, not just affirmations, but goals and things of that nature where you provide the prints and you can set your price whatever you want it to be.
Check you out, Khadija. Go girl.
I mean, that's her line of work, so it just makes sense. Instead of taking it on myself and making it rickety, why not make the goal look as good as her artwork? You understand what I'm saying?
Love it.
Yes, yes.
And 3, the little bit that I jumped in on, oh my God, my stomach is full, to say the least. I really appreciated everything that he was saying, because it really does boil down to mind state. We're only as limited as we think we are. You know what I'm saying? As a Christian man, I believe that, it's true. As a man thinketh, so he is. You feel me? So
yes,
my perspective.
Exciting. All right, I wrote down all the 3 things you said. So I'm going to ask you about those next week and make sure you didn't forget. All right, Sheena, tell me what you learned and what your thoughts are.
I'm going to go bigger with my visuals. So I would write affirmations and either like put them on my mirror. Recently, I started writing with a dry erase marker on my mirror, but I'm going to put the pictures with it and create my own affirmations, which I've actually been doing that with this journal that I purchased. So I'm going to actually write out my own affirmation along with the pictures of the things I want so I can work towards those.
I love it. I love it. All right. Let's see. Who's next? I don't know if Natasha's still here. You still here, Natasha? I know she was working today. Are you there?
A little bit of both, but I'm still here.
Okay. Any takeaways from today?
Rod was fabulous. Big takeaway is this is worth every dime of the subscription, y'all. Like, just be super glad that you have this kind of influence and influx. But there was a lot of encouragement there, both in the directions, in the encouragement of things to read and ways to implement those things into your current vision, and how to just up your game. I was particularly intrigued, and I kind of messaged you directly, Lanika, about the perception of others. Like, in your enthusiasm and joy and passion about what you do, what you mean to convey may not come across the way you mean it to. And that was really eye-opening for me. I'm like, ooh, I'm afraid, but I probably need to talk to Rod. Just to find out. I know I am super over the top passionate about what I do, but I know that not everyone's there. And there's constantly the battle going on in my mind when I'm speaking to people, that I have to calm down because my passion is not necessarily their passion, and it may not come across with the positive tones that I wanted to. So that was extremely insightful for me. I
love it. That's awesome. Because for me, that was so big, right? Like he talked about, like, I have supreme confidence. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in what I offer the world. And sometimes that's too much for people, especially an analytical person. It's just too much. They want all the numbers, the breakdowns. And I'm like, I'm talking big picture here. Like, why are we wasting time with all these numbers and details? Nobody needs that. You just need to know that you need this in your life, right? So that was big for me. And that was, that really was what changed my life, was being able to slow down and really analyze the person I was speaking to, and then speak in their language. It's almost like the love languages, right? You don't want to love people on the way that you want to be loved. You want to love them in the way that they can receive it. It's the same way with sales. You want to sell to people in the way that they can receive it, and not necessarily just the way that you do it. And that's why I often say that sales is not necessarily a skill. You're not like born with it. It's not innate. It is a skill. I'm sorry. It's something that you develop over time, right? You learn how to sell. And it's not something that, some people are just charismatic and people are like, oh, she's a born salesperson. You might think that about people, but really they may be just charismatic. And so that is the way people interpret that. You have to learn how to sell to people in the space that they're in. Give people what it is that they're looking for in that interaction. And you should never be selling. If you're actually selling, then you're actually turning people off. Right? If you go to a car dealership and they're just overbearing and you're not the type of person that wants to engage on that level, it's a turnoff. They're not selling you, they're pressuring you. That's different. So yeah, that was big for me. Khadijah, what did you take away from today?
I took away that, so communication is always and will always be key. But that also, the line of work that I'm in, that I'm doing, that other people see value in it, and it really is helpful. And I remember when we first came on, you was like, he's approaching things from a very scientific standpoint. And so when I started my line of work, it was not scientific. It was it was definitely like, this is how I feel, and I know that this must be a lie. Like, it cannot be true that I am the only one in the world who feels this type of way. And so I just kind of like was stepping out on faith by starting to share the affirmations that I write. And it was through me sharing the affirmations that other people began to tell me, oh my gosh, like I relate to this. And, it just started to flow in that way. So it was nothing scientific about it. Okay.
Right.
But it's really cool to see that not only am I on to something here, and I know that it has helped me, but that there is science-based knowledge about this, and like other people are talking about this thing just in slightly different ways. And it makes me feel like what I'm doing is even more meaningful. Like I already know it's meaningful for me personally. But that's just really, really cool that I can apply that same mindset to the sales aspect of business.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that you guys, I mean, it's apparent to me that you guys were soaking it in. Like you guys were really listening. Like you weren't just, sitting here and, it's going over your head. Like you guys were listening, you were taking notes, because what you're saying, they're not just surface things. These are things that were in there that he was, the things that he was getting at, like the meat of it. So I love this. I love that you guys are learning, because that's the point of CEO school, is the learning part. So Bernetta, I see your message. Are you still not able to speak? Is your sound still not working? I don't even see a microphone on you right now, so I wasn't sure. Oh yeah, her microphone's still not working, but she sent a message to everybody. So that's awesome. Melissa and LaShawn, I know you guys came in late, but is there anything you guys want to share or feedback?
I came in way too late, but I look forward to watching the replay.
Okay. Yeah, she came in right at the end there. So, and then LaShawn, I know you came in pretty late too, but I think you got a little bit of the end. Did you hear any of it? And I know you're on the road, so. And you guys, I'm going to send this replay out. So I want to make sure I have everybody's email here. If you could, while you're in here, if it's possible, direct message your email to, well, you send it to everybody, Jamel. That's cool. Everybody has Jamel's email now. But you guys can direct message your email to Carla for me. Then I can make sure you guys get the replay. I do have some emails, but I'm not sure I have everybody. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets it, that you get the replay. And I'm also going to open up the audio room again so that we can finish the conversation, and we can also network with other entrepreneurs that were not able to attend CEO school. So Carla, I'm going to have you moderate this space for a second while I open up the Zoom room. I mean, not the Zoom room, the audio room.
The audio room. Okay. So just make sure that you guys put your email in the chat, and you can, change it from everybody just to me. So if you don't want everybody to have it, again, I hope that you all are subscribed for the next 3 at least CEO schools, and you can tell just by this one that all the ones previous to this one and the ones coming up are going to be rich and full of information that the small investment that you're putting into it is minuscule to what the product or the results of, if you institute it, will do for your business. Lanika has been a part of my life for years, and because we're I guess we're on separate paths, a lot of the things that she teaches me or that I glean from her is rich even in my life, not even just about the sales that we're talking about today, but just being a tenacious woman about her business and about her life. We're not talking much about her personal life, but even her personal life, she's tenacious about focusing on the things that she loves, her family, her children, her travels, her health, so that really, is what I glean and makes me so happy to be connected with her. And then she can jump on, CEO school every Friday while running a multi-million-dollar business and give us this type of, ABC, matter-of-factly stuff that can, bring us into, 6-figure, 7-figure life. So, and then, add in, amazing people like Rod McKinnis and people that were here before that, if you get the replays, you can see, we've been blessed. So, I hope that you stay with CEO School, invite, people that that will benefit from this, and, take this nugget of wisdom and know that, this is something that, is a godsend. I don't know what your faith is, but, if this is dropped into your, fan base box or wherever you learned about CEO School, you must have been praying for something. And Lanika Johnson and CEO School was the answer. Okay, that's it. That's enough. Are you, uh-oh, you're on mute, so I can't hear you on Zoom. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so Lanika's on, I guess she's on fan base. So I guess I better get over there if I want to hear her, because she's on mute on here. Oh, there she is. Okay, I'm getting in.
I want to let y'all know, Lanika, know that I just used the Calendly link that you sent to do the subscription, because I don't have more subscriptions left in Fanbase. So yeah, I did that. Will there be like, you just want me to remember to come on to Fanbase at noon, or I guess what is my question? I'm wondering what the workflow will be like for next Friday. Am I going to get reminder or stuff like that?
So you've already did the Calendly, and also you gave me your email, so you'll get a reminder that every CEO School, and so you'll know to come to that, and she'll also inbox you on Fanbase as well.
Okay, because I like the thought of doing the Zoom instead of on the
Oh, okay, on the Fanbase, yeah.
Sometimes my phone will die, I ain't got time for all that, You
don't want to miss
nothing. We're back in the audio room.
I
know you just said you don't want to do the audio room, but we're back in the audio room.
So are you gonna close this down?
Yes, I'm gonna close this down, and you guys come meet me in the audio room. We're gonna do a wrap up over there.
Okay, bye everybody on Zoom.
Okay, bye y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Carla.
All right. You're welcome.